China overtakes the world in self-powered cars, and the United States is shocked beyond belief. Imagine waking up one morning and realizing that the future of transportation has already shifted overnight, not in Silicon Valley, not in Detroit, not in Europe, but in the heart of China. The headlines are buzzing, the markets are rattling, and the whispers of an energy revolution are growing louder. This isn't about electric cars that still depend on charging stations or gas vehicles that keep you tied to the pump. This is about self-powered cars, vehicles that can generate their own energy, drive without ever needing to refuel or recharge, and rewrite the entire rulebook of mobility. China has become the largest buyer, the leading market, and now the center stage of this disruptive technology, leaving the US not just surprised but genuinely shaken. For decades, America prided itself as the land of innovation, the pioneer of the automobile, the home of Henry Ford, General Motors, Tesla, and the dream that the future of mobility would be written on American soil. But now, the spotlight is shifting. China is no longer just a manufacturing hub pumping out cheap cars or parts. It has become the epicenter of next-generation automotive breakthroughs. The rapid rise of self-powered cars in China is more than a story of consumer demand. It's a symbol of a country seizing the future while others are still debating the present. The US cannot believe how quickly this transformation has happened. Think about it. Just a few years ago, self-powered cars were dismissed as fantasy, an idea too good to be true. A car that doesn't need gasoline, doesn't rely on charging infrastructure, and can power itself seemed impossible. Yet, in the labs and workshops of visionaries, the impossible began to turn into prototypes, and those prototypes evolved into production-ready vehicles. The world expected the United States, or perhaps Europe, to lead the charge. But instead, China moved swiftly, aggressively, and strategically. With government backing, massive consumer interest, and a hunger for clean, independent energy, China has become the largest buyer of these cars, outpacing every other nation combined. The shock in the United States is not just about sales numbers, it's about what this shift represents. It's about leadership in the technologies that define the next century. Self-powered cars are not a niche experiment anymore, they are a commercial reality, and China is dominating. The US, which has invested billions into electric vehicle infrastructure, now faces a new competitor that skipped a whole step in the transition. While America has been building charging stations, China has been buying cars that don't even need them. This is disruption in its purest form, and the implications are enormous. Investors are watching nervously. Automakers are scrambling. Politicians are asking hard questions. How did China pull this off so quickly? Why didn't the US see this coming? And more importantly, what happens next? The answers to these questions are both fascinating and unsettling. China's rise in self-powered cars is not an accident. It is the result of vision, strategy, and execution on a scale few nations can match. In cities across China, the streets are already buzzing with these futuristic vehicles. Families are embracing them because they free them from the constant expense of fuel. Young professionals love the independence, the ability to drive without worrying about where the next charge will come from. Businesses are integrating fleets of self-powered cars because they slash operational costs. And behind it all is a sense of national pride, a recognition that China has not only caught up with the West but has surpassed it in one of the most important technologies of our time. The United States, meanwhile, is in shock. For years, Americans believed that Silicon Valley would lead the world into the future of mobility. Tesla, after all, became the symbol of innovation, the electric car giant that inspired the globe. But while Tesla focused on electric, China quietly opened the door to a bigger leap: cars that make their own power. Suddenly, Tesla's charging networks, once seen as a competitive advantage, look like old infrastructure. And the US auto industry, which already struggles to adapt to electric cars, now faces the even bigger challenge of catching up in a technology it barely invested in. This isn't just an industrial story, it's geopolitical. Energy independence has always been the backbone of power. Nations that control energy sources control influence, security, and wealth. Self-powered cars flip that equation. They eliminate dependence on oil, reduce the need for massive charging grids, and put the power literally into the hands of consumers. If China leads the world in adopting this technology, it gains not just an economic advantage but also strategic leverage. The US knows this, which is why the shock is turning into alarm. The media in America is buzzing with questions. Experts appear on television asking if the US has already lost the race. Headlines declare China's dominance in bold letters. Some skeptics wonder if the technology is truly scalable, while others warn that ignoring it could be the biggest mistake of the century. In Washington, politicians are under pressure to respond, to fund research, to incentivize innovation, to make sure America doesn't fall behind. But the truth is, the momentum is already in China's favor. The story of self-powered cars in China is also a story of speed. In less than a decade, China has gone from being a follower in automotive innovation to the leader. While other nations debate policies, China builds factories. While others worry about infrastructure, China buys cars. While others look to the future, China makes it the present. That decisive action is why the US is shocked. It's not just about who has the technology, but about who has the will to scale it. And let's not forget the global audience. Countries across Asia, Africa, and Latin America are watching closely. If China proves that self-powered cars work at scale, these nations may skip the electric car phase altogether and go straight to self-powered vehicles. That would lock in China's dominance for decades. The US would be sidelined, reduced to a follower instead of a leader in one of the most crucial industries of the 21st century. Now imagine the consumer psychology. The dream of never paying for gas again. The thrill of driving a car that powers itself, that feels like magic but is science. The pride of owning something that represents the future. This is why Chinese buyers are rushing into the market. They don't want to wait, they want the future today. And that overwhelming demand is what made China the largest buyer in the world, leaving the US stunned and scrambling to catch up.